Grandmaster, as we walk through this hall, I can't help but notice the beautiful portraits of the past Grandmasters that came before you. How does it feel to now be a part of this legacy?
Humbling, to say the least. Very humbling. These gentlemen perpetuated Freemasonry in Pennsylvania. They perpetuated it from 1757 till today. And I am just thrilled to be a part of that. I am the 122nd Grandmaster of Masons in Pennsylvania. To think of all of the Masons that we've had in this jurisdiction, and to think that of 122, I'm one of them. It's thrilling. It's exciting to know that I'm going to be hopefully making a contribution to Freemasonry in Pennsylvania and to the lives of Freemasons in Pennsylvania based on what I see as a vision for the craft here in Pennsylvania and what we can offer a man in terms of his development as a human being, his development as a Freemason, through the values that we teach, through the degrees that we offer, through the charges that we use to remind him every month that he goes to lodge just what it is, that Freemasonry and good citizenship and being a good human being is all about. So it is humbling to be able to keep that going, but it's also exciting to know that there are good men within the fraternity that are going to be able to pick up that mantle and make that a worthwhile part of their lives.
In your inaugural address, you mentioned that history is something that's important to you, more especially Masonic history. What would you say are your favorite and least favorite things that happen in regards to Masonic history?
Well, let's start with least favorite. My least favorite thing that happened in Masonic history is going to be the William Morgan affair, which cost us Masons, it cost us prestige, it cost us lodges, and it cost us the opportunity to perpetuate Freemasonry here in the United States. And that's a loss that it just put us back. It eventually came back, and Masons came back into the fold. But there was a bad reputation established at that time, and that has since diminished. But there's always those that will go back and reference that as they want to look for something negative within Freemasonry rather than looking for the positive. So that would probably be my least favorite event or events as they unfolded. My favorite event is an ongoing event. My favorite event would be every time I go into a lodge and I see a new Mason being brought in and brought to light. And then a little later, we go back and we see that same Mason being raised to the sublime degree of a Master Mason. Those are the things that help me believe that this craft and the values that we teach are always going to be here. And as long as we are teaching those values, and as long as we're reinforcing those values, both in our degrees and in our charges and in our behavior as we go through our daily lives, those are the things that are the positive events that I see happening with Freemasonry.
And I can help but imagine whenever you see this new generation of Masons that are joining the craft, they come with a different set of experiences, and the way that they learn is perhaps a little bit different than the way that we do. They have access to different media, like social media, video, and that sort of thing. How do you feel about the fact that we are recording the history of Masonry now to be shared through this kind of social media and different media aspects?
Well, I feel it's a positive thing for us to be able to share in some fashion what Freemasonry is all about. Teaching the values, again, through our behavior. Making not just young people, you talked about generations, and I tend to refer to it as less tenured or more tenured Masons, because we don't always have younger men coming into the fraternity. We might have middle-aged to older men who are coming into the fraternity because they've now had the time, their children are raised, whatever aspect of their lives kept them from coming to the craft, we need to, embrace them, bring them into the fraternity, and show them what we have to offer. You talked about social media. Technology is a big thing. How we teach the new Masons, particularly the younger ones who grew up with computers and grew up with social media. That is a big thing for them. What concerns me is that we not step too far into technology and forget the actual values that we're teaching. Whatever we can use to teach the values of Freemasonry is a good thing, right? But we can't ignore those values. We can't ignore those core values of what Freemasonry is.
One thing that I find positive about Masonry is that there's that traditional coming together of like-minded men into a place, and there's something that can't be replaced with that. So I like hearing you say that, yes, we can embrace a level of technology, but there is a core benefit that comes from bringing men together into one location and interacting in brotherhood together. And in light of that, what would you recommend to a man who just joined Freemasonry, whether it is a latest generation or if it's a man who has a long life experience and now has the time to spend time in the fraternity? What would be your recommendation to them or your advice for them to get the most out of the fraternity?
I think the recommendation goes back to something you just said. Become involved with the men that you joined. And I don't particularly believe that because somebody is sitting at home online or because they're somewhat isolated because of their job, I don't believe that they're looking to stay in that realm. I think all people in some fashion are looking for the opportunity to interact with their fellow man. They're looking to interact with men who share their values, share their visions. So the only way you find that out is if once you're in your lodge, go to your lodge and get involved. We have so many opportunities for that interaction. Want to serve on a steward committee? You're involved. If you're a frustrated actor and you want to get involved in ritual, that's there. If you want to develop your leadership abilities, that's an opportunity that's there. Within Pennsylvania, we have something called the Master Builders Award, which if a new Mason embraces that and goes through all of the different things that they can look at in order to receive the Master Builders Award, it will expose them to the different aspects of Freemasonry and make them aware, at least, of what we have to offer. If we don't let them know what we have to offer, they're not going to know. They're not going to be able to enhance their experience. So part of the issue is not just what would I recommend to them, I would recommend to our lodges as well. Welcome that man. Welcome him, ask him, what were you looking for when you came into Freemasonry? And then show him the path to that ultimate object that he was looking for.
Wow, I like that very much. And it makes me curious about your personal journey. What would you say? I do know that you mentioned the belief of one living God and without the influence of religion, and you mentioned the brotherhood of man, of coming together. But was there anything other than that really drew you into Freemasonry, or something that you've gotten out of Freemasonry by being really involved and really embracing the fraternity?
Well, yeah, and it was beyond those things that I spoke of. As I went through the chairs in my local lodge, as I learned more about my individual brothers and their lives, and became friendlier with them, and they became friendlier with me, and we established a trust of one another's. I went through a divorce in my life. I was a single parent for a while. And the one thing is, particularly with a single parent, the one thing that I made sure that I did every month was go to my lodge meeting. I got a babysitter. I went to my lodge meeting and I came home. And I had people ask me at the time, how are you doing? How's your daughter doing? We're doing fine. They weren't asking for gossip reasons. They were asking out of concern, and they demonstrated.
Pennsylvania has an Academy of Masonic Knowledge. And in your involvement with it, you've seen its evolution as it continues to grow and it continues to reach more brothers. What would you say is the role of the Academy of Masonic Knowledge in Pennsylvania Freemasonry?
Well, the role currently, and as it was envisioned when it first came into existence under past Grandmaster Bob DeLugie and with the chairmanship of that committee of past Grand Secretary Tom Jackson, was to expand the opportunity for learning about Masonic events, about all sorts of Masonic things that a local lodge member may not necessarily get. One of the issues that we've had over the years is that the Academy of Masonic Knowledge only meets in Elizabethtown at our Masonic villages. So as I grew into the committee, I pursued and pushed, and so that we now stream that Academy of Masonic Knowledge into every district. We talked earlier about technology. Well, there is within a district, within a lodge, somebody who understands the technology. And I've asked the deputies to set up something in one of their local lodges in their district so that those people in Erie or those folks in Williamsport or Pittsburgh who didn't want to drive in for the day for the Academy of Masonic Knowledge could still experience the speakers that we bring in from all over the world. And they don't have to be Masons. We've had female Masons. We've had females who study Masonry. And there is a difference because there is a female Masonry. But that's something that Masons within Pennsylvania may not have understood until the Academy of Masonic Knowledge was there for them to explain that to them. So that I think the role is just to expand the knowledge of everything that Freemasonry has to offer in the world, because we've brought them in from different parts of the world, and enhance the education aspects of Freemasonry within the jurisdiction of Pennsylvania as a result.
It's amazing because not only are you bringing Masonic education from around the world, but I must admit that you're reaching a worldwide audience. When I had the privilege of coming to Pennsylvania in 2016 to participate in the Masonic Symposium organized by the Academy of Masonic Knowledge, we were streaming live, and we had viewers from many different countries tuning in live to the presentations and the discussions that happened. So I commend you and all the committee, everyone involved in that, because it takes Masonry, makes it very exciting for the brothers that are here, but also gives a glimpse to those who perhaps by one limitation or another cannot travel here to access that wisdom. So.
And you know, that goes back to the technology issue it goes back to the Masonic generations that you referenced earlier. When we first started talking about that, there was a more tenured committee who didn't see the value in streaming. They had concerns. There are going to be presenters who may not want to do that. My reaction was, if those presenters don't want us to stream, then they don't have to present, or they can tell us that and we don't stream that, and then we decide whether or not that's worthwhile. So as we progressed through the Academy committee, we saw people get on the committee who had a more progressive thought process about streaming that, so that it's now available, as you say, around the world. And we get questions from around the world when we're streaming. So it's pretty exciting.
Now that you have seen what this program has been able to achieve, what would you say is your vision for the future of Masonic education in Pennsylvania?
Well, we have a couple of different things that go on in Pennsylvania. For the Academy of Masonic Knowledge is one of them. We have a Lodge of Research, which that, by the way, meets in different portions of the state. So whoever is the worshipful master of the lodge, they determine where that lodge is going to meet at any given time. But we bring in speakers for that. And that's something that's worthwhile to explore, is the type of speakers we have. That, of course, is going to be restricted strictly to Masons. We have the Library and Museum here at the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania. We have a circulating library that Masons in Pennsylvania merely need to write in, ask for a book, we'll send it to them. When they're finished with it, they send it back. So, and that's been around for a long time. That's been around longer than the Academy of Masonic Knowledge. But we need to make sure that all Masons are aware of that opportunity. I like to think that as a result of the emphasis that we've put over the last couple of years on education and Masonic education, that we're going to see more Masons coming into the craft here in Pennsylvania, more excited about what our role has been and what our role can be. So I'm looking forward to seeing over the next several years how the education aspects of Freemasonry in Pennsylvania expand.
I know that you had an interest in digitizing documents and perhaps different books that are here in the library, and that would make that material accessible pretty much anywhere in the world. Could you give us a little insight into the process? Like, is it something that is ongoing? Is this planned? Could you give us an update on that?
Well, I can't take credit for that. That came from a woman who retired as one of the librarians here at the Masonic Library and Museum. It's indicating to me this is something we really should be looking at. And I like that idea. She also went out and got a couple of quotes. We could have done this in a sort of a half-baked way, which we've taken pictures and referenced and not done it as easily accessible as you're suggesting, or we could have done it full boat, and that's what we're doing. We're going the full boat. By the end of my term, and perhaps sooner, we will have completed the process where we have photographed every record that we have of Masonic members. Right? These are large books that go back to 1757, go up to around 1958, which then we changed the process of how we recorded those. But we've got a few hundred years here of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish. We do have them already photographed. We have them being digitized now. People are diligently sitting there and putting them into a database. And that's not an easy task, because we have people who may not know what a JW stands for. That's a junior warden. Oh, I didn't know that. Those are the kinds of things that are time consuming, but they're getting it in. Now, you indicated it's available throughout the world. It would only be available originally throughout the world by calling in and asking a librarian, can you tell me if my grandfather was ever a Freemason in Pennsylvania, or what, if he was, what his affiliation was in terms of, was he ever a worshipful master? Was he this? Was he that? And we can find that very quickly, access that, and answer the question on the phone once this is completed. And again, it should be completed by the end of my term. I'm actually hoping by sooner than that. But again, it's an expensive process, so we're going through that particular process now, making sure we have the money to do it, but making sure that it's done right. And another aspect of that, which I tell people when I'm talking to them, at least in Pennsylvania, they're not teaching cursive writing anymore. So in a few years, all of those records are going to be a foreign language. So we need to get that digitized and accessible to those future generations of America who don't have that knowledge of what cursive writing is. In my grandson, I gave him a gift that required a signature at Christmas. I said, you need to sign this. And he was embarrassed. He's like, I can't, because he had not been taught cursive writing. He's an intelligent young man, but that's not what he was taught, nor are a lot of intelligent individuals being taught that right now. So we need to make that history available. It's not just a matter of educating to the past. It's a matter of educating toward the future.
I love that attitude because it really has that foresight of what we're doing now is not just for us. We are leaving a legacy that is intended to survive us and the generations that come after us. So we thank you very much for your time and for your generosity. We appreciate everything that you're doing for Pennsylvania Freemasonry and for Freemasonry in general. So thank you very much.
Thank you for coming in. We appreciate the opportunity.